All right, good morning, yogis. Welcome in. This morning's class will actually start right down in Shavasana. Who doesn't love that? But before you get too comfortable, go ahead and grab a block and have it within reach. And of course, if you have your blanket handy, if you feel like you need a blanket to support your hips or head or neck, you can bring that with you as well. And come on down to the earth. Starting point that is, for most bodies, quite comfortable, quite supported, feels quite normal. We're going to work this morning with getting out of the box, the perception of normal, and play with getting upside down in different variations to flip perspective and flip your experience of the moment. So as you're here, hone in on your breath to begin and find a natural breath without shifting it or changing it or controlling it. You can follow that silent rhythm of your own breath and notice anything that's coming up in your physical form for these first few moments. Just allow yourself to land. And for anyone that is new to this weekly practice with us, I'm Avani. I'll be guiding the Vinyasa style today. Alex will be demonstrating postures, and we'll see you again on Friday, and we'll flip it. So thank you all so much for being here. So I'd like to invite you each now into a very soft pranayama practice, and those natural breaths that are cycling through you, work to lift your breath a little bit larger now. So you lift your breath from your belly and then let it rise up toward your ribs and then all the way up toward your collarbones. And that's without a retention. So it's a visualization of those landmarks. And then as you exhale, allow your breath to fall down from your collarbones toward your ribs and then way down to the belly. Your inhale passes through or lifts up from belly into the ribs, way up to collarbones. And then exhale down from collarbones to ribs into your deep belly. So this is Dirga Pranayama, 3-part breath. Although we're not going to distinguish or stop or pause between the 3 parts, just visualize them as your breath passes through. Lift up, big full breath, belly, ribs, collarbones. And exhale down from your collarbones to your ribs, to your belly. So I'm going to really take this time to lengthen out the breath to enliven your whole body with prana and lift more breath into your system. So it's a very, very subtle wake up before we begin to move. Take another round or 2. And then rock your head from side to side, like you're painting from the tip of your nose across the sky. You go as far toward right and toward left as is comfortable for the muscles around your neck, as if you want to land one ear down to the mat and then the other. On back towards central, and then reach your arms way up and back overhead. Spread your fingers wide. You can point and flex your toes. Roll your ankles or wrists. Wiggle your fingers. And then draw your right knee, just your right knee, up and in towards your heart. And take a little bit of movement in circles. Just your right hip. And again, you can also roll ankle at this time if you'd like to. Be sure to move in all directions. If you haven't already, reverse the direction of your hip circles. Reverse any ankle circles you might be making. And then bring your right foot. I'm going to demonstrate this standing for the folks watching at home. Bring your right foot to the inside of your calf, towards your thigh. So it's like a reclined tree pose. And allow your arms to come down alongside your body. Get to that inner line of the hip in a little bit more passive manner. Let's pause here for a few breaths. So it can be really deceiving with inversions, and we'll see them in many different ways in case anyone has any nervousness or fear or anxiety in the world of being upside down or getting upside down. There's lots of ways that you can experience that. This is very, very healthy and nourishing for your lymphatic system, which is going to support, of course, a healthy immunity. And it can be deceiving that we really need to have these big, bulky, upper body muscles. And often folks find it surprising that it requires a really high degree of hip openness and core stability and strength in order to get there. So you'll find a lot of focus in that for this morning's practice. With your next inhale, you can slide your right knee back toward midline. Use your hand to help lift it if you'd like to, and then lengthen your right leg out onto the floor. Take a breath to notice right side, then left side. And then go ahead and hug your left knee up and in toward your heart. Just your left side. Again, start to roll some circles or wake up for left side hip tissue in one direction and the other. You can always bring your ankle into it as well. And then slide back towards a still spot at center. Help guide your left foot either to the inside of your calf so the ankle is a little bit more open, or you can rest it to the inside of your thigh. So you find tree shape in your lower body, recline, a passive wake up and length for the inseam of your left hip. Soften there and breathe. And as you pause for a moment here, you might observe your relationship to being upside down. So maybe some of you following along at home, inversions are a regular part of your practice. Some of you may have never gone into an inversion, or you don't think that you have, because I bet you have. And so notice your relationship to that when you hear this. What does that invoke within you? And if it's feelings of fear or anxiety, take a last moment here to explore that. See if you can observe where that might be coming from. In yoga, we say often these poses are related to finding a different perspective. So seeing things with new eyes or different eyes. With your next inhale, you can help guide your left knee back toward midline. And this time, keep your left knee hugged in and draw your right knee up to follow. So get both knees in. You can take your peace fingers of either hand and bring your arms along the inseam of your thighs and catch either big toe with your peace fingers. Or you can bring your whole hand, whole palm, to rest flat to the sole of either foot. Ananda Balasana, a happy baby. You can hold it in stillness. There's a little bit of an active drag back of your knees toward the underside of your arm. Like you want to kind of tuck your kneecap into your armpit. That's the direction that you're moving. And you can hold that in stillness or take some rocks from side to side. You can even explore extending one leg long and then the other, or maybe both, if you'd like that. And then go ahead and draw both knees back toward midline. You can keep them drawn in and bent, both knees back toward midline. Rest your right foot down to the mat with your knee bent. Take your left ankle atop your right thigh, as in supine pigeons. You have this kind of figure four shape in the lower body. You can hug your right hamstrings in. You can hug around your shin. You can also extend your right leg long up toward the sky. You get to control the edge, give yourself a little less or a little more where it's appropriate. And then exhale, come all the way back down, land the sole of your right foot. Keep the figure 4 in your lower body, bring your arms out wide like a T, and then roll over to the outer line of your right hip until the sole of your left foot lands. It's like a twisted supine pigeon. You can keep your gaze to the sky over your left fingertips or shoulder. Take one more breath. And then draw your navel back so you get fiery at your belly. Use your inhale to slide back towards center. And then this time around, cross your left leg entirely over your right. Entirely over your right. So full crisscross in the lower body. First, take your arms alongside your ribs and find the pinky toe edge of either foot with opposite hands. It's like a Gomukhasana in the lower body. You're going to give a little bit of a drag with your heels towards your outer hips. 3, 2, and 1. Nice. Keep your lower body, your legs crisscrossed. So you're left over right in the lower body. With your upper body, take your left arm underneath your right. So I'm going to show this. It's a recline. We're taking lots of traditional poses, but recline this morning. So left leg is over your right. Take your left arm under your right. So as in a eagle or Gomukhasana on the earth. Right. So your toes are afloat. Extend your legs long. Keep your feet hovering. So Alex is going to reach your toes toward me, and then at the same time, reach your arms, fingertips up and back overhead. And then exhale, draw your elbows towards your knees at center, round your back so that your head, neck, and shoulders lift. Squeeze everything out of your lungs. Exhale everything you can. Nice. Inhale, extend, toes hover toward the top line of your mat, fingertips back overhead. And then exhale, squeeze everything out of your lungs and draw your elbows towards your knees. Nice. One more. Inhale. Remember I said the core has to be really strong for inversions. We're going to start working on that here. Last one. Elbows toward knees, knees toward elbows, everything out of your lungs. And then go ahead and inhale to lengthen. You can untangle your arms, untangle your legs, draw both knees up and into your heart. If you'd like, take a little bit of movement on your low back or even a happy baby between sides on that sequence. And then as you're ready, this time around, land your left foot down. Take your right ankle atop the thigh. If you did the opposite side last time, just do whichever side you didn't already do. Okay, so here, option 2, hug your left hamstrings in, hug your left shin, or of course to extend your left leg long towards the sky. Control the edge for another breath or two. You can give it a little bit more juice or a little bit less. And then go ahead and soften your grip if you have your leg extended, bend back into your knee. Rest the sole of your left foot back down onto the ground. Bring your arms out wide. And roll over to the outer line of your left hip until the sole of your right foot lands. Spinal twist. Gaze to the sky or over your right fingertips. And then with your inhale, remember first draw your tummy back or a lift upward as well, Vinyasa if you have it in your practice. Slide back towards center. Then cross your right knee all the way over the left. So full crisscross in the lower body. Start by reaching alongside your ribs and find opposite feet. Drag your heels towards your outer hips. Gomukhasana in the lower body. And then release that bind, but keep your legs crisscrossed at the lower body. Take your right arm underneath your left. Right arm underneath your left. You can bind at your thumb, backs of your hands, or palm to palm. Here we go. Reach the tips of your toes forward toward the front edge of your mat. At the same time, your fingertips reach up and back overhead. And then with your exhale, drag knees and elbows toward midline, round your back, and let your head, neck, and shoulders rise. Really squeeze everything out of your lungs. So a little bit of a hover or a hold in that tuck shape. Nice. Inhale, extend back. Exhale, prepare to hover or hold while you really squeeze everything out of the lungs. Inhale, last one, extend, nice work. And exhale, drag knees toward elbows. And then go ahead and untangle arms, untangle legs. Again, you can hug your knees into your heart. Take some movement on your low back if you'd like to. And then leave your knees bent. Rest the soles of your feet down onto the mat. There's an option here for you to take the block that's within reach that you brought with you between your upper thighs. For those that would like, if you know that your body benefits from a little bit of a landmark for turning on that inner seam, you can take your block. Also, if you are at home and you're working with resistance bands, you can take those around your outer thighs as well. All right, here we go. Or you can do this without a block too. So with your inhale, reach the crest of your hips up toward the sky. You can keep your palms pressing into the earth beside you. Hover here. We'll take a little bit of a hold on this first one while we kind of learn where or how to engage, and then we're going to start taking it more as a rhythm. So I want you to light up or turn on the whole back side of your body. Remember, all these muscles are what support your core too. So activate your glutes, activate your hamstrings, and for this last breath, see if you can find a little tiny, even if it's just a hair more of a lift, bring your hips even higher. Nice. Yes. So all that's going to be lit up and turned on as we move through this a little bit faster. Exhale and allow yourself to roll all the way back down. Nice. Okay. So as we move through this one breath, one movement, you have the option to leave your palms down onto the earth beside you, or as you lift your hips, you may also choose to bring your arms up high and back overhead, as long as your shoulder mobility is going to agree with you on that this morning. So inhale to lift, squeeze the whole back side of your leg, lift, and then exhale all the way back down. Yes, really active. Inhale guides you to lift, start your breath, and then body movement follows. And exhale, slide back down. Last one. Nice. Okay. You can find your block. My quarantine pod's gonna be real happy about this one because we were playing with these the other day. I'll give you two options of a block pass between hands and feet to give a little bit more fire for your core. So leave your feet to the earth for the moment. Reach the block high and back overhead. And then bend into your knees. So you're making like a little shelf with your shins. On your exhale, round your back, lift up. Balance the block on your shins. And then extend your leg blocks. This is option A. You can continue with this. Take the block between both hands and extend. Or, if you'd like, you could take straight legs, pass the block, squeeze between your legs. This one's going to be a little bit more fiery for the inner thigh line, and lift all the way up. It's a deeper rounding of your back as well. Remember, the feet stay hovering. The feet do not land. Whether you're in the straight leg variation or the bent leg where it's balancing on your shins variation, the feet never come down and land onto the earth. This is a good spot to tune into your Ujjayi breath if you haven't found it already. If you're unfamiliar with that in your practice, please just find a really strong and stable breath rhythm. We're going to take two more. Nice work. Between the feet or to the shins. Nice. Back to center. And the last one. And then go ahead and set your block off to the side. You can lengthen yourself all the way down onto the mat. Enjoy that length for the front side of your body because it's not going to last too long. So you take a little mini stretch for the core there. And then with arms reaching high back and overhead. Bend your wrists so that your fingertips come down to touch the earth overhead. We're going to fire up the whole front side of the body now. So it's as if you're doing handstand, but down onto the earth. So activate the tops of your legs, draw your toes back towards your shins, hover your heels, and then float your fingertips, lift your head and neck, drop your gaze towards your navel, hover. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release back down to the earth. I love poses like this where it doesn't look like you're doing a lot, but there's a whole lot happening in your inner world. I think this is like good for flipping perspective too. So we're going to do this 2 more times. I'm sure as you watch the video, it's not going to look like a whole lot's going on, but we know that's not true in your inner world. Here we go. Let's hover the heels, float the fingertips, drop your gaze in towards your navel so the whole front side's fired up. Yes. 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice. I'm going to do this last one with you. Here we go. Take a breath and then exhale, hover. Draw your toes back to your shins, float your fingertips, gaze to your navel. 3, 2, 1. Release everything back down. Draw your knees up and into your heart. Draw some circles on your back if you'd like. You can either rock and roll up and down the length of your spine or roll down to one side if you'd like. And press your way up to a seat. Then bring your feet together in the middle with your knees hinged wide and fold. You can allow your back to be rounded. Lift from the back side of your heart, slowly lift up toward a seat. Stack your ribs above your pelvic bowl. You can crisscross your ankles at center. And last little kind of free movement to get into all edges, all movements of the spine. You can roll some big full barrels. You can move through some cat and cow expressions from a seat. Flexion, extension. Make sure if you've just moved in one direction, go ahead and reverse it for the last couple breaths. And then come on back towards center. Reach all 10 fingertips high toward the sky, and then interlace your fingers and draw your thumbs, the knuckles of your thumbs, down toward like around C7, that kind of bumpy vertebrae at the base of your neck, or maybe even below. This is going to be an isometric practice. You want to work hard to draw your elbows back. So if you're really kind of rounded here, the work is to find some lift. So activate, press your palms into one another as strongly as you can. So do you feel how that kind of turns everything on? Yeah. So it's really subtle. The challenge with the isometric work is we can't see much of a difference, but it hopefully feels different. So active, 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 squeeze palms into one another, and then go ahead and soften, but don't release your hands. Soften. Take your gaze up to the sky. Take a breath. Here we go. We're going to do that a second round. Press your palms into one another. Press, press, press as hard as you can. So undersides of your arms start to fire up and activate. This will come in handy a little bit later in the practice. Fire, fire, fire. And then soften. Lift your gaze. Last round, bring your gaze back to neutral. Press your palms into one another. Find a lift of your elbows. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Soften. Reach all 10 fingertips high. And then you can breathe right down through heart center. Roll up and over. feet and ankles or sweep your feet around behind you. This is a good spot to find your 2 blocks or your 2 big books if they're even. You can also take this without the blocks or books for those practicing at home. Bring your blocks about like maybe about hips width distance apart, enough space for your head to dive down between them. And stack up as if toward tabletop. And then land your elbows atop your blocks and press your palms together. Dive your head down between your elbows, and once again, draw your thumb toward the base of your neck spine. So Anahatasana variation, your hips stay stacked high over your knees. You can take this same variation again without the blocks, with your elbows landing down to the earth. Breathe. With your next inhale, extend your arms long. Lift your palms to face down. Float your elbows and tent up on all 10 fingertips. Keep your hips high and a few pulses for the upper back and for the shoulder mobility. You'll drop your heart down and then exhale, round your upper back. And your gaze between your knees. So this is actually an inversion. Anahatasana is an inversion. Your heart is below your hips. This is why I say also part of flipping perception is being open to surprise. You may not have known that you were inverting in this pose before. One last round. We're about to layer on another inversion to the practice. Rest your hips back towards your heels, as in child's pose, and then reach your hands back to cup your heels. Cup your heels behind you. Rest your third eye point to the earth, and then roll up toward the crown of your head without releasing the grip of your heels toward rabbit's pose. Next inversion, you're upside down. So your hips roll up high, you're resting toward the crown of your head without force in your neck spine. Here we go again. Hips are above your heart, rabbit's pose. And with that grasp on your hips, you're gonna get some nice space for the shoulder joints as well. 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and rest your hips back down toward your heels. Release your cupped heels. Reach your fingertips forward and walk both hands out and off the right edge of your mat. We want to create a little bit of side space before we stand up. So both hands off the right edge of your mat, then drop your upper body towards your left hip. Rest your head low. A couple big full breaths up left side body so you can visualize your breath kind of cleaning or making space between each rib. And then walk it all the way back towards center for a breath, slowly, without hurry. And cat paw on across, both hands out off the left edge of your mat. This time you drop your upper body weight towards your right hip and rest your head low. Move your breaths up the right side of your ribs. And walk it all the way back towards center. Round your back to lift up toward 4 points. Okay, really modified chaturanga / push-up here. Keep your knees below your hips. Bend into your elbows. Let them draw back towards your ribs so your chin might land, and then reverse it. So lengthen your arms, lift back toward table. 2 more. Draw elbows towards your ribs, maybe all the way down toward chin and chest landing, but then reverse it. Lengthen right back up to table. Last one. Exhale as you lower. Inhale as you lift. And with your toes tucked under behind you, let your hips rise all the way up. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Here we go. We're upside down again. If it feels safe for you, open up your eyes. And take your gaze off the back edge of your mat with a little bit of a look around. See the world upside down. Take your right leg high to the sky. As an option, if there's a lot of fear in inversions, in your practice, no problem, something that with time we can work with. However, as an option, if that's your experience today, you can also take this with your right foot down and then extend it later on. So right foot high to the sky, start walking back with your hands. Walk back with your hands toward your left leg, directly into a standing split. If you conveniently have a wall located directly behind you, like I do, or we have a wall nearby your home, this is a great one to take up the wall. So you can reach your right toes up and high back on the wall and continue to get closer. You can, if it feels safe for you, really drop your gaze behind you. Maybe land your head down towards your shin. You're upside down. This is a pretty deep inversion. So only if it feels safe. If you feel a little wobbly or insecure, keep your gaze down to the earth beyond your toes. And then keep your right leg lifted. Walk your hands all the way forward. Walk your hands all the way forward. All right, so you're in a downward facing dog with your right leg lifted. Roll your weight forward, shoulders above wrists. This is an option. Remember, you can land both feet down always. Otherwise, elbows dip towards your ribs here, and then reverse it. Lengthen your arms, reach all the way up high and back. Land your right foot down to meet your left. Okay, between sides, roll your weight forward. Land down. We're going to move through a full vinyasa now. Knees and then chest and then chin. Slide your heart through. Rest to the tops of your feet. Baby cobra, bhujangasana. And breathe it down. Lift up your table. Tuck your toes under. Lift your hips high and back. Return to downward facing dog. Remember, you're already upside down here. Big full breaths. Take any sort of movement you'd like. And then inhale your left leg high. So remember, if this is really fear-inducing, take it down a notch. You always get to choose your edge. You can leave both legs planted, walk your hands back, and then extend your left leg. Otherwise, keep your left leg hovering high. Start to walk your hands all the way back, directly into your base leg. If you have a wall nearby at home, remember this is a great one to take against the wall. You can walk your left toes up the wall. Gaze can be out beyond your right toes. Or if you feel safe, really drop the crown of your head down toward the earth so that your gaze zooms out behind you. Take a look at the world from this new place with these new eyes, everything upside down. One more breath. Nice. And then keep your left leg raised. Walk all the way forward. Same option. You can take this with both feet down to the ground if you prefer. Walk all the way forward with your left leg high. Roll your shoulders and elbows above your wrists. Keep left foot hovering. Push up and reverse. Lift all the way high and back. Land your left foot down to meet your right. Full vinyasa. Roll your weight forward. Option to draw knees, chest, and chin. If you're feeling ready to layer on those full chaturangas, you may do that. Maybe upward facing dog or baby cobra. Tuck your toes under. Reach all the way high and back. Bring your gaze up to the top edge of your mat. And take a step, one footprint at a time, all the way forward to the tippy top of your mat. As you arrive, you can roll up toward fingertips or slide your hands up your shins. Allow your knees to be soft. Draw your navel back. Exhale to fold a little bit more deeply. And then inhale, keep your navel drawn back. Nice and strong and fiery. Bring your wingspan out wide. And come all the way up. Utthita Tadasana. Breathe your hands together to your heart. You can take a check-in here at Anjali, or Mudra, or palms over heart. These inversions, the work of getting upside down, is pretty deep work for the uppermost chakras, so throat and third eye and crown. So it can be a much more esoteric, a much more spiritual experience. Like I didn't really know I was going to be overcoming a deep fear on my yoga mat today. So if any of that's bubbling up for you, offer yourself some compassion. Take a breath, pause in stillness, and notice. And go ahead and bring your gaze down toward the earth. Take a heel-toe step so your feet are out a little bit wider than hips width. Draw your toes out, leave your hips in, and then sink down really slowly. Always the option to bring your hands to the earth to support yourself. Malasana. Hook your upper arms to your inner thighs and drag your upper arm bones back. Then lift your sternum up to greet your thumbs. And with your next exhale, land your palms, reach your sits bones back up high, heel toe step towards center, and fold. Inhale to lift halfway, so fingertips are your shins, Ardha. Exhale, ground your palms, move like you. You know, you can step back, you can vinyasa here, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. You can also lift directly back to down dog and use that space for an extra breath or two. That is where we will meet. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Full breath more. And then inhale your right leg to the sky. Take a deep bend into your right knee. Let your right foot get heavy. If you want to drop it off the opposite edge of your mat. And then I'm going to say, go ahead and like get as much weight into your right foot as possible. So you really feel the front of your right hip. Your psoas. Might even feel a little bit of stretch in the abdomen. And then on your exhale, draw your right knee all the way up through, slide your shoulders above your wrists. Like you want to kiss your kneecap. Maybe you do. You certainly can. And then inhale, reach high and back. You're going to hinge the front side of your right hip open again. It's like a big half circle with your knee. Exhale, slide your shoulders above your wrist. Draw your knee toward your nose. And inhale, reach high and back. Two more. Exhale. Just like that. Floor, those floor eagle crunches. Squeeze everything out of your lungs. So you're creating an effective compression of the organ, toning the muscle. This time, lift your gaze forward, step your right foot all the way through. Stay on your tippy toes behind you. Please make sure you have a block within reach. Again, as I said, this can also be done without a block, but for those that would like to have it, within reach off the tips of your right toes. Stack your right knee above your ankle and rise. Ashta Chandrasana. Okay, so I'd like to propose here, if moving through this without a block, that it will look like this. Exhale and lean your weight forward, and either isometric contraction where you're pressing your palms into one another, or you can circle your elbows back and find cactus arms as you lean forward, and then inhale to lift. So it will be that movement if you're working without the block. Those that would like, this block is going to create that contraction of squeezing in toward midline. So press on the outer lines of your block. Exhale, lean forward. Stay on your tippy toes at the back. Keep your underside of your left knee active. Inhale to rise. Exhale. Without resting belly onto your right thigh. Good. Two more. Go ahead and exhale all the way down. Set your block off to the side. So you're still on the tippy toes behind you. Walk both hands to the inside of your right foot. Walk your hands all the way around to the back edge of your mat, Skandasana. So your right toes float, side lunge. Just another breath here. And then go ahead and walk all the way back. Bend into your right knee, plant the sole of your right foot. Walk both hands back to the front edge of your mat. Step your right foot back. Option to move through Vinyasa with Chaturanga, without. A little or a big back bend. And we'll all meet back at down dog. inhale your left leg high. Bend deep into your left knee. Let your left foot get really, really heavy, really, really heavy. And then exhale, drive your left knee all the way up and in toward your nose, or give it a smooch, round your back, roll shoulders above wrists. And then inhale, hinge the front side of your hip open again. Exhale all the way back. Squeeze everything out of your lungs. Nice compression there for the organs. Toning for your whole abdomen. 2 more. Exhale, squeeze your knee toward your forehead. Inhale to extend. Last one. This time, as you breathe your left foot forward, step it all the way up between both hands. Stay on your right tippy toes at the back. Remember, your block is within reach. And rise. Crescent warrior. Again, sink deep down into your hips. Keep the underside of your right knee active. Slide your ribs right above your pelvis. So option without block is this. You can interlace your fingers, lean forward and squeeze your palms toward one another, and then lift. Or you can lean forward, circle your elbows back, and then lift. Or of course, you can take this with your block. So with or without block, 3 more rounds. As you exhale, lean forward. As you inhale, lift. Last one. This time, go ahead and breathe all the way down. Set your block off to the side if you're working with it. Block both hands to the inside of your left foot, all the way around toward the back. Land your weight into your right foot. You can roll to your tippy toes or leave your right foot flat. Draw your left toes back towards your shins, Skandasana. Really sink your weight down so you're feeling into the inseam of your left thigh. 3, 2, and 1. Walk all the way back up through center. Frame your left foot, step it back. Move through Vinyasa or step right back to down dog. Of course, you have child's pose there as a nearby option as well. 3 breaths to cycle through the movement that you require. And then on your exhale, land both elbows down to the earth. Both elbows down to the earth with your hips up high. Shishulasana, another inversion for the practice. Again, if it feels safe, drop your gaze back toward the back edge of your mat. And as a challenge and a practice, I would like to invite you each to start walking your feet toward your elbows, just as far as you comfortably can before your elbows begin to slip out wide or it feels like it could be injurious for your shoulders. So walk your feet toward your elbows and then walk them back, but keep your hips high. You can take that a couple rounds. So walk forward and you'll notice your hips lifting higher above your heart, and then walk back. As if heading toward Pincha Mayurasana, certainly if you have forearm stand in your practice, you could take that here. Feel free to float or play. Otherwise, it's a walk forward, tiptoe steps forward, and tiptoe steps back. Your head is afloat in forearm stand. If you're playing with that, take 1 more round. Tiptoe forward, with the forearm stand. Yeah, your head is afloat. And tiptoe back. Yes, nice. Okay, so hips are high. Float both of your elbows right back to down dog. Bring your gaze forward toward fingertips. You can walk, lunge, or hop your way up. And as you land, lift halfway. Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Take your arms out wide and high. Lift your palms together towards your heart, just a space to check in and to breathe. Notice all that's arising. And then go ahead and inhale. Reach high. With your exhale, draw your navel back and then fold. Get the tops of your thighs active. Uttanasana. Lift up halfway on your inhale, slide the fingertips or your shins. Move back through Vinyasa as you're feeling into it today. That might look like plank chaturanga up dog, or it might look like a slide right back to down dog. Take a breath. Reach your right leg high. Bring your gaze forward, step your right foot all the way up through. This time around, spin your back heel down. Front heel is going to come to mid-arch, and then cartwheel your arms wide. Virabhadrasana 2. Sink deep into your front knee. See if you can see your toes to the inside of your front knee. Sink a little bit deeper. And a little bit deeper. And then go ahead and lengthen your front leg, draw your hands together to your heart, spin all 10 toes to the long edge of your mat, and bring your hands to your hips, hinge forward. Kasarita Halottanasana, all the way forward. I encourage you, if it's available in the practice, to leave your hands at your hips so that you're kind of doing this bat hang upside down to get the feel of being upside down without so much support. We're going to have a moment to bring the hands down to the earth. In just a few breaths. So head nice and low. If it's safe, open your eyes. Take your gaze behind you. Squeeze your elbows toward midline. Yes. And then go ahead and land your palms down. Now, on the first time around, we're going to revisit this pose in a moment. On the first time around, you have an option, which is to continue walking your hands behind you. So off the heel edge of your mat, walk them as far as you comfortably can. You may also take your arms out wide and bind outer ankles of either foot and use that for a little bit of leverage to drag your upper body deeper. So you're going to intensify the inversion with either one. Maybe you just roll right into it. Might happen. So again, you'll be able to revisit this a second time, but certainly if the Shirshasana 1 or the tripod headstand is in your practice, you can certainly take lift off for that from here. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and walk your hands back toward midline if you're not already there. All variations, draw your hands up to your hips once again. Squeeze your elbows in toward your spine, toward midline. And then lift your gaze, then lift your heart, draw your tummy back, wiggle back. Lift all the way back towards standing. Swivel your front toes. Take just a breath back in period 2. And then go ahead and cartwheel down. You have an option here to take Vinyasa, or come back to down dog, or come to child's pose. We're almost there, yogis. All right. Inhale your left leg high. Exhale to step it through, land it between both hands. Spin your back heel down for your Vira 2 foundation, front heel to mid-arch. Then lift with both arms wide. Vira 2. Okay, so we're going to hold here for a few breaths, sinking deeper and deeper into your front knee. You really activate, alive, and awaken the inseam of your left thigh. A little bit deeper. And a little deeper. Good. Now draw your hands to your hips. Swivel your front toes around. Draw elbows back toward the line of your spine and lead with your heart. Come forward. So again, I invite you to, if it feels safe and appropriate in your practice, to kind of do the bat hang here for a moment. Hands free. Open up your eyes. Take a look behind you. And then go ahead and land both hands down. So this is where if you have this first headstand, I'm not going to break it down too much. This is not really our peak today, but if you have this tripod headstand in your practice, bring both hands about shoulders width apart, bend your elbows, and land to the crown of your head. So you're making a triangle. Your upper arms are kind of like a flat shelf, and then perhaps float your toes. We're going to be here for about 3 more breaths. So if you're inverting here, rejoin the rest of us at your own pace without hurrying. If you're in the tripod variation, squeeze your elbows in toward midline. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, all variations. Remember, if you're inverted, go slowly, rejoin at your own pace. Otherwise, all variations, bring your hands up to your hips. Squeeze elbows in, lift all the way back to standing. And then swivel left toes to the front edge of your mat. Sink deep into your knee, back to Vira 2, just a breath. And then go ahead and come down. Step back. Land down onto your knees and take a tall seat. And please find your blanket. Really could be anything, or a pillowcase, something that's slippery and slidey. We're gonna do just a couple sock slides. I actually don't have enough space here because of the wall, but I think I can show it off this side of my mat. Alex and I are gonna do like dueling sock slides over here. Okay, so you want to take your blanket or pillowcase quite a bit back from the back edge of your mat. From the back edge of your mat. And then land your feet on top of the blanket as if you're coming toward like a upward facing dog. Stay on the tops of your feet. Float your knees and then slide your toes all the way toward the back edge of your mat like you're lifting up toward a pike. You're still on the tops of your feet, and then slide back. Keep your knees covered. Good. Slide forward as if toward a pike. Lift your hips high. You're inverted here, maybe bring your gaze behind you, and then slide back. Just one more. Slide, lift your hips. Drop your gaze between your upper arm bone, and slide back. Go ahead and release your knees down. You can really, if you're totally off your mat, you can kind of crawl or slither forward and release yourself all the way down onto the mat. Those who've been through the Kriya Yoga Academy program, you know if we were having a 2-hour sadhana, you would have done that like 5 more times. So enjoy that you only did it 3 times today. Take a breath. You can float your feet, bend into your knees, and take a little bit of a rock with your feet from side to side. And then go ahead and lengthen out your feet behind you. Press your hands under your shoulders, lift back through table, and sit on back towards your heels. All right. So we're gonna play. I'm very grateful for Alex always for doing demonstration, but especially today because it's not an easy task to be demonstrating for headstand variations. So we'll set up for the second variation of Shirshasana, which is this more triangular shape. You'll interlace, let me get a little bit closer. So you're gonna interlace your fingers. Some folks like to tuck their pinkies in. I'm one that keeps my pinkies out. You can experiment with that. And then if you're too wide, your foundation's not gonna be as steady or as strong, so you wanna keep it kind of like a triangle. And then also pay attention to the wrists. If the wrists are kind of flaring out or in, right? You want wrists and elbows to be lined up, nice and strong and solid. So that's the foundation. And then there's a lot of options you can work with here. So land your foundation down. I always say it's a little bit more accurate to say like a hairline stand than a headstand. So you're not going to be exactly on the very tippy top of your crown, but rather like 4 or 5 fingerprints back from your hairline. And then a couple options. Can you bring your feet down? So I'm going to have Alex go really slow and show your options. The first option is you can work to lift your hips, walk your toes in, just like we did with the forearm variation. Walk your toes in, just feel what it is to have your hips above your shoulders, and then walk your feet back. Walk your feet in, and then walk your feet back. The second variation is going to be walk your feet in, stack your hips above shoulders, and then bend one knee in towards your heart, and then extend. And then bend the other knee in, and then extend. Or maybe only the bend in toward the heart and then land it, okay? The next variation will be to draw both knees up and in toward your heart. She's doing a hard work here demonstrating. So the third variation will be to hover with both knees drawn in. Yeah, hover there. And then if you're feeling really steady and strong with that today, perhaps extend both legs strong to the sky and look for that inner squeeze of the thighs that we played with in the bridge pose at the start of practice, right? So any of those variations, all of those variations, none of those pose variations, the point of the practice is practice makes progress. As long as you're upside down, you're doing excellent work today. And a last one I might like to offer for anyone who's like almost there is to grab your blocks, stack them up, set up your foundation, and then block your tippy toes atop the block or the stack of blocks. So we've done a lot of work to strengthen the core, leaving some space for you all to be playing with it at home. We've done a lot of work to strengthen the core. We've done a lot of work to open the hips. And so the other big factor that can kind of hold folks back from these inversions is really the fear. So the block variation can be very helpful. Perhaps bringing a wall into your practice or nearby might be helpful. Please don't take this with your head. Don't worry about the crashes that you hear in the background. Everybody's okay. Please don't take this with your head onto a blanket or a soft surface. That's the only thing I forgot to mention, just for the stability of your neck spine. So we're going to leave just about another minute here to play around with inversion of your choice. And then when it feels complete for you, it may feel like a good counter pose or neutralizing pose to come towards child's pose, as we see Alex, or maybe it feels better to come toward a tall seat and pause there. So find any sort of posture that's comfortable to neutralize as you complete your play. So in the next 3 to 5 breaths, please find your way down from your inversion, either through child's pose or right toward a tall seat. Then you can slide your hips down to one side, bring your feet around to the front. Interlace your fingers and keep your wrists close to one another. Draw some infinity shapes or figure eights in one direction and the other. Release that. And then with your thumbs, put a good amount of pressure right at the base of your skull at either side of your spine. So it would be in the fleshy tissue, not actually on the bone. And press there. And then release. Press a little bit wider out from the spine. A good amount of pressure here and release. And then last point, a little bit wider. You're right under the ridge of your skull. Press up and in. And release. And then go ahead and let your right ear fall down to your right shoulder. And allow your left ear to fall down toward your left shoulder. And all the way back towards center. Come to lying on the earth, but keep a block nearby. All the way down to the mat. You can keep your knees bent. Sorry, there's 40 blocks over here. Sorry. Come all the way down, your knees bent. And then press into all edges of both feet to float your hips and take your block at the lowest setting underneath your sacrum. Make sure the lumbar spine is really supported. And then float both of your feet as if you'll draw your knees into your heart, and then extend the soles of your feet upward toward the sky. Viparita Karani is supported. Legs up the wall pose, our last inversion of the practice. And this is a really sweet one, especially at home. If you're feeling a little tired, like in a slump in the afternoon, this one can be really energizing if you take it for a couple minutes. For those of us that don't have time to squeeze in naps in the day, this can be a good alternative. And as I said, getting upside down can be really nourishing for your lymphatic system as well. So important in our flush of toxins. You start to soften out your breath. If you'd like to, as we start to slow down and cool down and prepare for final integration, you may want to return to Dirga Pranayama here. So maybe lifting your belly or your breath rather from your belly to your ribs, to your collarbones, and then lowering it down from your collarbones to your ribs, to your belly for a few rounds. If the natural breath feels better for you, then of course sink into that. Be here for just about 30 seconds more. And then as you exhale, bend into your knees. Invite the soles of your feet back down onto the mat. Press into them to lift your hips, and then slide your block out from underneath you. Come on back down to the earth. Keep your feet wide and rest your knees onto one another in the middle. You might take a rock of your knees from side to side and bring your arms out wide. Maybe you want to pause for a breath or two on either side as a last spinal twist, a twist of your choice. Your feet might be wide or they can be twisted. And use these last few moments to take any sort of last shape posture movement that will allow you to integrate most fully from the practice. So you may want to take a little roll of the shoulders, or you can walk your palms up to the sky and roll shoulders out from underneath you one at a time. You might want to take a last roll of your wrists or your neck. A last inversion, as Alex is showing, Vinyasa or cow pose. Any final shape as an offering to yourself and to this practice, so that when you come toward integration, it feels complete. And as you're ready, and settle all the way down towards Shavasana. Some folks like to prefer to integrate from a seated meditation. That is also an option. Whatever's offering itself to you today in your practice, find that and get still and breathe and receive. I'd love to offer you all these final few moments to really observe your practice of switching perspective, thinking outside the box, quite literally seeing the world in a different way as you learn to find comfort in getting upside down, learning to be more at ease in the unknown or the less comfortable, kind of a general theme for all of us in these times. So notice all that may be arising within you after that very difficult practice of seeing things in a new way or in another way than what you may perhaps be accustomed to. And I thank you all deeply for taking on this practice with me this morning. Those practicing at home, please feel free to remain in Shavasana as long as you would like. And seal your practice in a way that feels true for you when it feels complete. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining Alex and I this morning. We'll see you all Friday. Namaste. Jai Bhagwan.